Friday night, everyone's leaving, you're staying. There's something that feels good about it, something righteous. The office emptying while you're still at your desk. The factory floor quiet except for your machine. The restaurant closed, but you're still counting inventory. You're doing more than required. You're going above and beyond. You're outworking the people who left at 5. Your phone buzzes. Time and a half starts now. The premium kicks in. And suddenly you're not just working. You're earning, really earning. The kind of earning that feels like you're getting ahead, like you're beating the system, like you're building something. Monday comes, paycheck lands, the number is bigger, you did it, you won. Except you didn't, and I can prove it. This is financial triage, and I need to show you why the most celebrated form of hard work in America is actually a trap disguised as a reward. Let's run real numbers because feelings lie and math doesn't. You make $25 an hour base, 40 hours a week. That's $1,000 gross weekly, $4,000 monthly, $48,000 yearly before taxes. After federal, state, and FICA, you take home roughly $36,000. That's $3,000 a month, $750 a week, $18.75 per hour of actual take-home. Now you work 10 hours overtime at time and a half, $37.50 an hour gross, $375 extra before taxes. Sounds great. But over time, income gets taxed at your marginal rate, not your average rate, depending on your bracket and state. That $37.50 per hour becomes roughly $23 take home. You worked 10 extra hours for $230. Your real overtime rate is $23 an hour, not $37.50. Meanwhile, your base rate was $18.75 take-home. Your overtime premium after taxes is only $4.25 more per hour than your regular rate. You stayed late Friday, you missed the weekend. You burned 10 hours of your finite life for $4.25 extra per hour. That's not time and a half. That's time and a quarter at best. The tax code took the rest. But wait, it gets worse. Those 10 hours you worked, what did they cost beyond the time itself? You were tired? You ordered delivery instead of cooking? $15 gone? You didn't meal prep for the week because you got home late. Another $40 in lunches you'll buy. You skipped the gym? The thing that keeps your healthcare costs down? The thing that keeps your energy up? The thing that makes your regular hours more productive? You needed to decompress, so you bought something online, $30 of retail therapy. You were exhausted Sunday, so you hired someone to clean, $80. Your car needed extra gas for the additional commute, $20. You're 10. Over time, hours grossed $375, netted $230 after taxes, and cost you roughly $185 in recovery spending. Your real gain was $45. $4.50 per hour of actual captured value. You worked an extra 10 hours for the equivalent of minimum wage, except minimum wage workers don't think they're getting ahead. Now let's talk about what you didn't do during those 10 hours. You didn't spend time with the people who actually matter to you. That relationship cost is unquantifiable, but it's not zero. You didn't rest and recover, which means next week's productivity drops. Stanford research shows productivity per hour plummets after 50 hours weekly. You're not just working more, you're working worse. You didn't learn a skill that could raise your base rate. The 10 hours you spent earning $23 take-home could have been spent developing abilities that add $10 to your base, hourly rate permanently. That's $20,000 a year forever versus $230 once. You didn't build anything that works without you. Every overtime hour is traded for dollars. When you stop, the dollars stop. There's no residual, no compound, no asset created. You sold time for money at the worst possible exchange rate and called it hustle. Here's the psychological trap nobody talks about. Overtime feels like progress because it triggers the same reward circuits as actual progress. You see immediate results. Bigger number on payday. You feel virtuous. I worked harder than everyone else. You receive social validation. Look at the dedicated worker. Your employer praises you. Thanks for going the extra mile. All of this feels like winning. None of it is winning. It's a simulation of winning designed to extract maximum labor for minimum advancement. Your employer loves overtime, and here's why. They don't have to hire another person, no benefits to pay, no training costs, no additional headcount. They get surge capacity by squeezing existing workers, and the workers thank them for the opportunity. Time and a half sounds like a penalty employers pay for overworking you. It's actually a discount compared to hiring, onboarding, and retaining another employee. The premium isn't a punishment for them. It's a bargain. The punishment is for you, paid in exhaustion and missed life. And here's the part that should make you stop. Overtime is regressive. The more you earn, the worse the deal becomes. At higher income levels, you hit higher tax brackets faster. Your marginal rate climbs. Your take-home premium shrinks. Someone making $60 an hour base who works overtime might see their premium taxed at 32% federal plus state plus FICA. Their $90 overtime rate becomes $55 take-home, barely different from their regular after-tax rate. They worked extra for almost nothing. The person overtime benefits most is the person who earns the least. But the person who earns the least is also the person who can least afford the hidden costs, the delivery meals, the recovery spending, the healthcare decline, the relationship strain. Overtime is a trap at every income level. It just wears different disguises. So what's actually happening when you choose overtime over alternatives? You're making a trade, 10 hours of life for $230. Let's test that trade against other options. Option 1, you spend those 10 hours building a skill, not a hobby, a skill. Something that makes you more valuable in the market. Web development, data analysis, sales techniques, trade certification. 10 hours a week for 6 months is 260 hours. Enough to become competent in almost any new skill. That skill adds $5 to your base hourly rate. You negotiate a raise or switch jobs. That's $10,000 more per year, every year for the rest of your career. 1 year of redirected overtime hours returns $10,000 annually forever. 10 hours of overtime this week returns $230 once. The math is not close. Option 2, you spend those 10 hours starting a side income, not a second job, a micro business, something you control, something that can scale, something that builds value while you sleep. You use the 10 hours to launch a simple service, lawn care, tutoring, freelance writing, small repairs. You make $100 your first week, barely worth it. But you keep going. 6 months later, you're making $500 a month with the same time investment. A year later, $1,000 a month. That income is yours. You set the rate, you capture the growth, you build a client base that has value. You created an asset, not just a transaction. 10 hours of overtime returns $230 that disappear when you spend them. 10 hours of side business returns a machine that keeps producing. Option 3, you spend those 10 hours doing nothing productive at all. You rest, you sleep, you exist without output. Sounds wasteful until you consider the downstream effects. You're sharper Monday through Friday, your base productivity increases. You don't make the tired mistake that costs your employer money. You don't miss the detail that would have gotten you noticed. You show up as someone with energy and ideas instead of someone running on fumes. Your boss promotes the person who seems like they have capacity, not the person who seems maxed out. Overtime signals desperation. Margin signals leadership. Doing nothing might be worth more than doing more. Here's the reality nobody will tell you at work. The people who work the most overtime rarely become executives. Executives don't work overtime. They work differently. They build teams, they build systems, they build leverage, they figure out how to get results without trading hours for dollars. The overtime hero is the person leadership relies on for surge capacity, not the person leadership promotes to bigger roles. You're too valuable where you are. Doing what you're doing, staying late when needed. They don't promote their best overtime workers. They preserve them. Your reward for exceptional overtime is more overtime. Your punishment for refusing overtime is being seen as someone with boundaries, which is exactly how executives behave, but somehow different when you do it. The game is rigged. The only winning move is to stop playing and start building something else. So what do you do Monday morning? First, you calculate your actual overtime rate. Take your gross overtime pay, subtract taxes at your marginal rate, subtract the hidden costs you incur when you work extra, divide by hours worked. See the real number, let the real number kill the illusion. Second, you cap overtime at a specific number per month, not zero necessarily. Sometimes overtime is strategic, a short burst for a specific project with a specific payoff. But chronic overtime, every week, indefinitely, that's a trap. Set a limit and enforce it. Third, you redirect those hours to base rate improvement. Every hour you would have spent earning time and a half at $23 take-home, spend instead on becoming worth $10 more per hour at base. The math works out in your favor within 1 year. Fourth, you audit who benefits from your overtime. If the answer is primarily your employer and minimally you, something is broken. Either negotiate different compensation or reallocate your effort to something that builds equity. Fifth, you protect your recovery with the same intensity. You protect your output. The person who works 50 hours and crashes produces less than the person who works 40 hours at full capacity. Rest isn't laziness. Rest is the factory maintenance that keeps the machinery profitable. The overtime trap works because it feels like exactly what hardworking people should do. Work more, earn more, get ahead. The feeling is real. The getting ahead is fake. Your employer wins with overtime. The tax code wins with overtime. The delivery apps and retail therapy and burnout recovery industries win with overtime. You break even if you're lucky and fall behind if you're not. Real progress doesn't come from selling more hours. Real progress comes from making each hour worth more. From building things that produce without your presence. From investing in yourself instead of depleting yourself. The person working 60 hours a week at the same rate is running in place. The person working 40 hours while spending 10 hours building skills and 10 hours building assets is actually moving forward. Same total time, completely different destination. Friday night, everyone's leaving, you could stay, the overtime is available, the premium kicks in at 5, your phone will buzz, time and a half starts now. Or you could leave, go home, rest, read something that makes you better. Build something that pays you later. Invest in becoming more valuable instead of just more available. That's the choice, not between working and not working, between working for this paycheck and working for every paycheck that comes after. If this reframed how you see extra hours, hit subscribe. Financial Triage exists to expose the traps that feel like progress and show you what actual forward motion looks like. Next video, we're unpacking the promotion paradox, why moving up often means falling behind, and the math you need to run before you accept that bigger title.